Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, I'd like to go over the cards that I opened in my first Dragons of Kolaghan pre-release. I went Kolaghan, red-black, and had a pretty good sealed pool. It was really fun. You know, I ended up going red-black, 2-1. So in this video, I'd like to go over the deck that I built, obviously the sideboard cards, and I'd like to also go over the other cards that I opened. Unfortunately, I ended up drawing a lot of decent blue spells and a lot of decent green creatures, so I considered going green-blue. Unfortunately, or fortunately, my seeded pack gave me quite a few strong cards. I think the Kolaghan seeded pack is pretty good. So looking at it, I didn't feel, time was running out, and I just didn't feel that not going red was viable because of the decent red creatures, or the good red creatures that I had. So I'm going to go through the deck that I built here. I'll go through it by converted mana cost, starting with creatures, then we'll move on to spells and lands and such. So to start off, my promo was Zurgo Bellstriker. I was hoping for Kolaghan, but I was also happy to get Zurgo. Zurgo, as a 1-mana 2/2, was not breaking, science at all. He was great on turn 1 when my opponents when they had a slow start, when they weren't able to block. Zurgo was able to easily do, 4, 6, sometimes 8 damage. Not sure if he ever really got that high, but he's just a really good early creature, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. He's probably going to see play in constructed in a mono red aggro deck, which is partially why I'm happy to see him, because those are the types of decks that I play. But what I found was later on in the game, he was just essentially worthless. With the text Zurgo Bellstriker can't block creatures with power 2 or greater, he can't really chump effectively to save you a large amount of damage. He can only block small stuff, and with that small stuff, you typically don't really care all that much about it. He's only ever going to save you 1 damage, and that's not really a big deal. So while he was great early on, the downside to him is just he wasn't useful at all. He pretty much just sat on the battlefield. After turn 4 or 5, he just sat on the battlefield and didn't really do anything. He just wasn't useful. That being said, his purpose is to be an early creature, and he does that well. I had 3 Kolaghan Aspirants. These cards were fantastic. They're 1 in a red for a 2/1. Whenever Kolaghan Aspirant becomes blocked by a creature, Kolaghan Aspirant deals 1 damage to that creature. I found many of my opponents were trying to play 1/1s in the hope that they were going to chump block and have a later game. And Kolaghan Aspirant was really cool because people can't really effectively chump block with 1 toughness creatures. They're going to get taken out before they get a chance to do damage to Kolaghan Aspirant. So I was very happy with this card. Having 3 of them in the deck, it came up relatively consistently, and it was a good source of decent damage as long as I pulled it early on. Obviously, pulling it later in the game when there are bigger creatures in the field didn't really do much for me, but that's the name of the game. You're playing smaller red creatures. You have to get around that. You have to try to win the game as early as possible. When Kolaghan Aspirant, I won games when I hit Zurgo Bellstriker on turn 1, Kolaghan Aspirant on turn 2. I won every game that happened, and it happened a couple times, so I was very happy with this card. We have a Scream Reach Brawler, a 3-mana 2/3. This was just a decent card. It didn't, most of the time I hard casted it for its normal cost. Occasionally I dashed it, but any creature with dash is valuable. It just allows you to get some extra damage in before your opponents are able to put up a defense. So I was happy with this card. Reckless Imp. If I had to pick an MVP of the night, it would probably be Reckless Imp. So it's a 2 and a black for a 2/2 flying imp. Reckless Imp can't block. It's got dash, which is good. This is essentially just a value-packed card. You can dash it out when you need the damage, and it's a flyer, and flyers are very important in any limited format. There seems to be a lot of flyers in the format. And I faced quite a few of them, but I was facing like Aven Skirmisher, like 1/1 flyers, the blue owl that when it dies it draws a card, things like that. Reckless Imp was just a solid creature that consistently did, 8, 10, even 12 damage. It was just my opponents didn't have a flying defense, and I just kept pinging them with Reckless Imp while I held up blockers. So it was very good, and it won me quite a few games. And I had 2 of those. So I would say if you're playing black, Reckless Imp is a creature you should probably be playing. Kalsisma Behemoth. This was a creature that it elicited a lot of wide eyes from my opponents when they read it. So on turn 3, I would try to play Kalsisma Behemoth, a 3-mana 5/5, and it can't attack or block unless you pay 2. That's a considerable downside, considering that you want to always be having something out, and if on turn 4 you don't have a 2-drop to play, you can't use all of your mana effectively if you want to attack with Kalsisma Behemoth. But every time I played it, my opponents were basically like, okay, so if I don't kill this, I'm going to lose the match. And I basically said, yeah, I'm going to attack with it next turn, so you might want to deal with it if you can. As anyone would guess, a 3-mana 5/5 is really good. It effectively is a 5-mana 5/5 with the cost that you continually have to pay, but it's just a really good creature. If you're playing red and you're trying to be more of an aggro deck, then I think this was just a very good creature. It didn't do wonders. It only really helped me win one game that I was already winning anyway. Like I said, it is a bit slow. It slows you down, unfortunately, but it's a 3-mana 5/5. That's perfectly fine. Sabertooth Outrider, 4 mana, 4/2, trample with Formidable. Whenever Sabertooth Outrider attacks, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, Sabertooth Outrider gains first strike until end of turn. This was a decent card. It was just a solid body. If you have 8 power, and most of the time I did, especially when you consider that I already have it with Kalsisma Behemoth, really. Sabertooth Outrider was just a consideration for them to block in terms of the first strike damage. But other than that, it was just a solid body, nothing special. Warbringer was fantastic, and I wish I had more of these. So Warbringer is 3 and a red. Dash costs you pay, costs 2 less, and it has dash for 2 and a red. This is just a fantastic card. When I hit this, and then went into a card that we'll see later on, the Sprinting Warbrute, it was usually too much for my opponents to handle, just sprinting out constant creatures. If you get a lot of dashing creatures, I'm sorry, I keep using the word sprint. If you get a lot of dashing creatures and then you get a Warbringer or 2, you're looking pretty good. This is just a solid creature with a very good upside. I was very happy with this card. Summit Prowler, it's a 4-mana 4/3, nothing special, didn't do anything special. I traded a couple times. It's a decent blocker, it's a decent attacker. There's not much to say about it. If you get it and you need creatures, you should probably play it. Sprinting Warbrute. This combined with Warbringer was amazing. So 4 and a red, Sprinting Warbrute attacks each turn if able. It has dash for 3 and a red, and it's a 5/4. It's very, very powerful. If you get the Warbringer, play Sprinting Warbrute. If you don't get the Warbringer, still play Sprinting Warbrute. It's just really good. Dashing out a 4-mana 5/4 is just good business. It's something I liked. I'm a person that loves to just play creatures and turn them sideways, and Sprinting Warbrute fits perfectly into my playstyle. And just in limited, sprinting out a creature like this every turn is going to really, really hurt your opponents. So put this guy on the field, attack with him, and you're probably going to have a lot of fun. So that was it for the creatures. I think that means in total I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 creatures. Not enough creatures for an aggro deck like this, unfortunately. But in the black and red colors, I simply didn't open enough creatures to really do what I wanted to do. So on to the spells. For the 1-drops, I opened Foul Tongue Shriek, and this is 1 black. Target opponent loses 1 life for each attacking creature you control. You gain that much life. The one match that I lost by 1 toughness. a gain land, one of the dual lands, Jungle Hollow, saved my opponent. If I had Foul Tongue Shriek at the time, this would have won me the game. Consistently, I had 2, 3, 4, even 5 creatures on the battlefield, and attacking with them, saying Foul Tongue Shriek, you lose 5 life, I gain 5, is relatively powerful. It never really saw a whole lot of play, but it was still a good card. I had 2 Coat with Venoms. So this is a 1 black. Target creature gets +1/+2 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. This was actually very useful. A lot of times when my opponents blocked, they thought they were blocking favorably. The 2 toughness is relevant. It saved my creatures several times. And when it couldn't, it still was okay because I knew I was going to be trading up and use this. And it was it's a combat trick. It was a surprise to my opponent, and it definitely pulled its weight. So I was happy with these. Deathwind. This was every bit as good as it has been in the past. I believe this was an Innistrad block. Target creature gets -X until end of turn. It's flexible removal. If you're playing black, you should be playing this card. It's just really good. It got rid of pretty much any creature I really needed it to. In fact, the game that I lost, if I had played Deathwind a little bit more smartly, I believe I would have won. But I got greedy, and things didn't work out for me. We have Timur Battle Rage. This is 1 in a red. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. It's a Fate Reforged card. It didn't do as much as I hoped it would. I guess I had visions of Grandeur dashing out a sprinting Warbrute for 2 and throwing Timur Battle Rage on it, but it ended up just usually going on my imps for 4 damage. So this card didn't do as much as I hoped it would. Oh, here's another creature. All right, 1 more creature, so that brings us up to 13 creatures. I had a Kolaghan Skirmisher for 1 in a black. He's a solid 2/2 body. You have to dash him for more, so you really just want to hardcast him on turn 2. But he was very solid for this deck. One that I didn't mind having at all. Butcher's Glee, 2 in a black. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn. Regenerate it. This was extremely powerful, and my opponents were consistently noting how good it was whenever I used it. It was almost a blowout, just attacking with creatures that they thought nothing was going to happen when they blocked, and I just ended up getting rid of everything, of whatever they were blocking, going up a big chunk of life, and also not losing my creature. This was very, very good. I wish I had 4 of these in my deck. I would gladly pay them. If you're playing a deck like this is definitely worth it. It's just really good. It kept me in the game a lot longer with the lifelink. It kept my creatures around. I just loved it. It was a great card. Diplomacy of the Wastes. It was good. 2 in a black. It lets you see what's in your opponent's hand and gets rid of any powerful creatures they may have, and they lose 2 life. I had a lot of my deck is warriors, so Diplomacy of the Wastes was a great card. It was kind of annoying to my opponents. But the times that I played it to great effect. I got rid of dragons. On one particular occasion, I got rid of a dragon the turn before it would have come down, which saved me a lot of headache. So Diplomacy of the Wastes in black is very good. Tail Slash, 2 in a red. Target creature you control deals damage to its power to target creature you don't control. I was unfortunately a little light on good red spells, and so this is the one that I had to settle for. Tail Slash is not fantastic, especially if you don't have really big creatures. This works great with something like a Kalsisma Behemoth, although I never got to use that interaction. Most of the time I had to use Tail Slash on one of my 2/2s to get rid of a possible chump blocking 1/1 on the other side of the table. It didn't do a whole lot for me. If you're playing with bigger green creatures, maybe you're playing green-red, I feel like this is going to be a lot more valuable. But for me, it didn't really do a whole lot. Lose Calm, 3 in a red. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste, and it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So this is basically Act of Treason with the additional benefit that whatever you steal can't really be blocked except by 2 or more creatures, which is fantastic. It opens up more blockers. It's a good card. It's a little on the pricey side. 4 mana, you're basically paying 1 more for the blocking clause in this over Act of Treason, but I was happy to play it. Like I said, I was light on good red spells. This was very decent. Unfortunately, my opponents never really played anything big enough for me to get huge value out of this card. I think the best thing that I took control of the night was like a Teamer War Shaman, so it was a 4/3. But other than that, if I had to go back and do things differently, I may not play this card. But it kind of depends on, just depending on my opponents not playing, you know, big bombs. I would have loved to have taken control of like an Atarka or something like that with Loose Calm. I just never got the opportunity, so Loose Calm didn't really do a whole lot for me. Flatten, 1 and a red. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. This was a very good card, and one that I enjoyed playing. It's good removal. It'll pretty much get rid of a lot of very good stuff. If you get it in black, you should play it. It did a lot of work for me. Definitely helped get rid of some otherwise pests. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mountains, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 swamps. So that's 40 cards, spells, and creatures. Like I said, I was happy. I was happy with this deck. The one match that I lost to a newer player who was playing a lot of creatures with big butts. They were just 1/6s, 2/5s, and unfortunately, that's the type of thing that I just had a slow start and I couldn't push through them. So, at any rate, this is the main deck. Very happy with how it performed. I would have preferred a few more creatures, maybe a couple more powerful spells, but other than that, I was very happy with how it performed. I did note that the Kolaghan seeded pack was pretty powerful. My Kolaghan seeded pack at least contained the Warbringer, the Kalsisma Behemoth, and some of the Kolaghan aspirants. Almost all my good red creatures came from the Kolaghan seeded pack. One of the Reckless Imps also came from the Kolaghan seeded pack. The other one I got from the other packs, but the Kolaghan seeded pack was very, very powerful and well worth it. So if you're looking for some fun in red-black, I would say go ahead and play Kolaghan and don't regret it. Some of the cards that I relegated to the sideboard: Sultai Runemark, Marsh Hulk, Dutiful Attendant, Fall Renewal. I wanted to use this. I didn't really think of how I would effectively use it. Unfortunately, this is one of the cards I got in the normal packs, and a lot of my targets are low power, low toughness, and I didn't feel that it was going to be very powerful in this deck, so I didn't really use it. Defeat, destroy creature with power 2 or less. I put this in the sideboard for if my opponents were playing a lot of low power creatures. However, I never really played it because I didn't really care too much killing a 2-power creature. It can be useful, I just never boarded it in. Self-Inflicted Wound. This is a really good sideboard card, especially since a lot of people are playing Atarka, they're playing Dromoka. Target opponent sacrifices a green or white creature. If that player does, he loses 2 life. This is kind of a double whammy, but it's a value-packed card. For 2 mana, your opponent gets rid of a creature, and they lose 2 life. Never got a chance to use it, as I didn't play a lot of people that were using white, and I didn't play a lot of people that were playing green or green-white. If I had played an opponent that was playing green and white, I would have sideboarded this in, but I didn't see quite enough value in just putting it in when my opponents were only playing one of the 2 colors. Virulent Plague. It was 2 and a black. Creature tokens get -2/-2. I was going to board this in against my final opponent of the night. He was playing white-blue Ojutai, and he was putting a bunch of 2/2 Jin Monks on the battlefield, which was pretty scary for me. I stuck to my guns. I didn't necessarily think I needed Virulent Plague, so it never got to see play. But this could be a very good sideboard card against the Ojutai decks, who I noted were casting a lot of the spell that puts 2/2 flying monks in the battlefield. This wasn't in my sideboard, however, it's just one of the blue cards that I opened, the Torrent Elemental. Again, it was just one of the good blue cards that unfortunately I didn't end up playing on the night, but I wanted to put it in the sleeve because it is semi-valuable. So, some of the other cards that I opened in my pre-release pack: Wandering Tomb Shell. Dragon Fodder this is the alternate art Dragon Fodder I got for playing the Dragon Dice game, which was pretty fun. Unfortunately, it is rather hard to get all the cards. If you want to get all the cards, it's based on points. I think I got 9 points, and that was good enough for the first 2 cards, which was basically an alternate art Evolving Wilds and an alternate art Dragon Fodder. Collateral Damage. Kolaghan Stormsinger. I didn't play this card because it's just a 1-mana 1/1, and I didn't want too many of these. It does have Megamorph, but this is a tough card for me to evaluate, and this is just kind of proof that I need to get better, especially in limited and evaluating cards. I think this may have been better for me to play in the end, as playing it as a morph probably would have been decent, at least as a chump blocker. But it wasn't really anything. I didn't feel like it was a super good creature, so I don't terribly regret the decision on that, but I still kind of think if I could go back and do it again, I might actually play it. Magmatic Chasm, 1 red creatures without flying can't block. I think I definitely should have played this. If I had it in my hand several times, I probably just could have blown my opponent out. Going back, I probably would have played this. Volcanic Rush, Sarkhan's Triumph, Atarka Pummeler, Volcanic Rush, Dragonlord's Servant, Tormenting Voice, Rite of Undoing, Glint, Foil Glint, Ancient Carp, Mystic Meditation, Blessed Reincarnation, Palace Familiar, Sidisi's Faithful, Profaner of the Dead, Lotus Path Djinn, Zephyr Scribe, Updraft Elemental, Cloudform, Gurgur Nemesis, Void Squall, Formless Nurturing, Sandstep Scavenger, Pinion Feast, Hunt the Weak, Servant of the Scale, Scaleguard Sentinels, Guardian Shieldbearer, Atarka Beastbreaker, Stampeding Elk Herd, Segmented Crotic, Salt Road Ambushers, Sunbringer's Touch, Epic Confrontation, Aven Sunstriker, Dramoka Doomcaster, Artful Maneuver, Sandstep Outcast, Lightwalker, Pressure Point, Pacifism, Dramoka Warrior, Great Teacher's Decree, Enduring Victory, Aven Skirmisher, Keeper of the Lens, Silumgar Monument, Vial of Dragonfire, Evolving Wilds, Grim Contest, Cunning Breeze Dancer. This was the only dragon that I opened on the night, and I really didn't have the colors to play it, unfortunately. A Thornwood Falls, a Plains, a Forest, a Spirit Token, a Goblin Token, a Morph, and a Morph Token. So those were all the cards that I opened. Obviously, these are all the cards that I opened in the non-seeded packs. And some of the cards went into the main deck, obviously, but that's it. Those are all the cards that I got in the pre-release. As you saw, or probably saw, I had a lot of green, I had a lot of blue. Unfortunately, the green creatures were very expensive later game, and I just didn't feel the blue-green deck would have really done anything amazing. So outside of that, like I mentioned, I went 2-1. I had a good time. I think the deck is solid. If you're unsure of what you're going to play, Kolaghan is fantastic. Dash is a simple mechanic, straightforward. It allows you to just turn creatures sideways, which is one of the most fun, at least in my opinion, it's one of the most fun things you can do in Magic. So if you're still unsure, give Kolaghan a try. I also want to highlight the 20-sided die, as everyone was talking about them. This is the Kolaghan die. Unfortunately, it may be hard to focus on it, but it is a very pretty die. It's kind of pink, and it does have some specks of something on the surface. I don't think there's anything inside. I did note the Atarka die looked very, very nice, so I was pretty happy with these. I kind of wanted to buy one of each pre-release pack, just to get the dies. I may look online to see if I can get them a little bit cheaper than $26, which is what my store is selling them for, but these may actually be worth it. So, alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.